Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast. I'm Rick Anthony. All right, musicians, those of you especially who are in cover bands on the weekends, you want to listen to this, okay? It's really hard to remember the lyrics to the songs that you didn't write. Well, as a matter of fact, it's even harder sometimes when you wrote the songs and you still can't remember as you're getting older. Plus, you have to remember what key it's in and what chord progression it is. Well, my guest this time is a guitarist and manager of two successful bands in the Dallas area. And he has something that will help you out on stage. It's called Black Box. And with me to talk about Black Box is the creator, Tory Smith. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Rick, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on the podcast here. Normally, I don't do gear-related things, but this one really seemed like a great idea. First off, let's talk about you, Tory. Let's talk about your background, your exposure to music, who influenced you, and what was it that made you decide to go down that path of being a musician?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the youngest of three boys. I've got a brother about 3 years older than me and another one who's 8 years older than me. And I'm an 80s kid, right? So even though I was born in the late 70s, I grew up listening to a ton of 80s music. In the background, there would be Duran Duran and Billy Idol and Prince and Journey and Devo, and the list goes on and on. And it was a huge influence on me. Now, as the grunge alternative, music movement started taking over with Nirvana and stuff, I shifted a little bit to that. But at heart, I've always been an 80s kid. And I would say, my brother's been the biggest influence on me.
Oh, wonderful.
So much, even to this day, because he's the one that's the lead singer of the two cover bands I manage.
Oh,
we'll
that's
get to that
nice.
here in a minute as well.
That's nice. That's nice. So you definitely spent a lot of time watching MTV, right?
Oh, yeah, big time. It was raised on it.
Yeah, my kids were also, as far as that goes, and it was great because we wound up getting cable right about a year after MTV started, and man, we would just be glued to the television set because I wanted my MTV. Now, like I say, you managed two successful cover bands in the Dallas area. There's 80s Gadgets and 90 Proof Country. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned about confidence and stage presence through the years?
Oh man, it's everything. I mean, it's a matter of getting booked again or getting the bigger and better gigs or not. To me, confidence and showmanship kind of go hand in hand. And if you're just kind of the average mediocre band, just kind of getting through the night, it's going to show. It's going to show on your face, But if you know your stuff inside and out and you're delivering 100%, you typically will stand out above the average cover band, and I see it all the time. If I'm not on stage playing, I'm watching, my friend's band or somebody else's band, and deep down I'm kind of critiquing. And I'm like, oh, what could they be doing a little bit better to make them really, really stand out? The it factor, I call it. So confidence, man, that's everything in this line of work.
My late wife and I used to manage bands, and our big thing was stage talk as far as that goes, because a lot of people have a tendency to, for some reason, they get really and truly nervous and they start apologizing. Well, we got just two more songs and then the next band's really, really great. I hate when they do that, when they don't provide enough confidence in what they're doing. If you're going to get out there, take control of the stage, take control of your audience. And that's a big part of stage presence, too, as far as that goes. Plus, you got to look good. I learned one thing a long, long time ago. I learned that one of my favorite artists, Jimmy Buffett, was not the greatest singer. He was not the greatest player. But his stage presence and what he brought with the Coral Reefers made him what he is. I mean, you talk about, who's one of the greatest singers? Definitely Jimmy Buffett doesn't pop up, but it's just the whole vibe. I mean, he created an entire religion based on his stage shows and such. So stage presence is very, very important. And what you're going to tell us in just a bit is really and truly going to help your stage presence, because musicians rely on tablets and phones an awful lot to figure out the lyrics and the chords. When did you realize that was actually becoming more of a problem? Because I've seen tablets actually fall from mic stands, and oftentimes you get to a gig and there's no Wi-Fi. What were you dreaming up at that time that made you actually realize that there was an actual problem and an actual need for Black Box?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give you two stories, right? I'm going to go back about 5 years ago, and then I'm going to give you a more recent story. But the one 5 years ago, when my brother and I were forming this 80s cover band, he's approaching 50 at the time, and his memory was starting to lapse a little bit. His vision was starting to lapse a little bit. And, he knows most of the songs 99% of the time, but it's that 1% that he doesn't want to look like an idiot, because if you're
Right.
the singer
Exactly. Yeah.
and you forget the line or you forgot how the bridge went, you're in hot water really, really quickly. And so at the same time, he didn't want to be that guy with the iPad in his face or a big tablet or music stand in his face. So he went online, he started shopping around for, kind of self-controlled, page turning teleprompters. And what he saw in the market was overly basic and
Kind of a
quite expensive.
karaoke type thing almost.
It sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of along those lines, and so he didn't want to be that guy, and so he got pretty crafty, and he went out to the garage. True story. He found an Amazon shipping box, okay, cardboard shipping box, and he cut out the front of it and wrapped it up completely in black duct tape. Okay, if you can picture this,
All
right?
right. Got
So
it.
you have this box wrapped up in black duct tape with the front cut out, and he rests his iPad inside of it. So he MacGyvered his own poor man's teleprompter. And he had
Okay.
these Bluetooth pedals that would turn the pages. So he's using an app that's very, very common called OnSong. That they have, they're huge. They have like 400,000 customers. They're really good at what they do. So if you're a musician, you haven't checked that OnSong, I seriously recommend checking those guys out. But they're a scrolling lyrics app. Okay, so he has his OnSong app. He has his poor man's teleprompter, and it worked, man. It worked. He used that for several years.
Wow.
People had no idea he was ever using a prompter of any kind. To the audience, it just kind of looks like it blends in with a speaker,
Like a monitor. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very much like a floor monitor or wedge. So that was 5 years ago. I thought, man, and so that was the first thing that gave me the inspiration. I was like, okay, if you're running into this dilemma, I'm sure there's other other musicians on stage with the same dilemma. Well, then fast forward to about 4 years ago. Excuse me, 1 year ago, 4 years later. So 1 year ago, I was watching my buddy's band, and they had two guys on stage, and they both had iPads in their face, and they were leaning into it, like squinting, swiping, just leaning. Very talented band. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a better way. And so then I teamed up with a drummer friend of mine, and who I didn't know was like a legit rocket scientist, but he's ranked one of the top software engineers in the world. He had, when I showed him my brother's cardboard box, he earlier that week had tripped over one of the older, I'll just call it competitor boxes. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And he did not like that box. I'm not going to name the competitor by name, but he just was not a fan. And I looked at him and I said, "Man," I said, "if we can build a better version of this, I will sell these like hotcakes." And the very next day, he was in his garage cutting out wood, prototyping. And then a few months later, after that, we actually rolled it out or debuted it at the Dallas Guitar Show
Oh, cool.
in May of
Right.
2024. So that's kind of how we were inspired by it, and we can kind of go into a little bit more detail about what makes us different compared to your average teleprompter. But yeah, that's kind of what started it all.
Okay. How does it all work as far as what sets it apart from the different ones you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what I call the world's first smart teleprompter. Okay,
Cool.
what do I mean by smart? Well, let's just say the other ones on the market they show JPEG files and image files, and they show PowerPoint slides. Okay. This one does a lot more than that. Okay. So there's a computer inside, with a memory card inside. So you can store, your songs, but you can color code your chords or your song sections, like when a bridge and chorus is coming up. For you guitar players, you can auto transpose if your singer's like, "Hey, I need to bring that down half a step," and you're going from E to E flat. You're like, ugh. But you want to be able to transpose those chords very, very quickly on the fly. So this allows you to do that. There's some other smarts built in, like you can synchronize multiple boxes. It does have Wi-Fi. You can create your own hotspots. You can synchronize other boxes to where one person controls the other boxes for everybody.
No, that's
So
a
all the
smart. That's a
pages
smart. That's a smart
change.
option right there. Yes.
Yeah. And but one of the I guess the biggest things we just released this past week, we made the announcement at NAMM a couple of weeks ago, is we have something that you won't find anywhere else. So we call it Sing Along. Now, Sing Along is brand new. In fact, with any customers that are listening, if you run an update today, you're gonna get Sing Along, free of charge. We don't charge extra for the added features. What that is you'll have a QR code tied to your box, and you can print it out and you can have it for your audience to see. your audience can scan the QR code with their smartphone, and instantly the words will
Oh,
appear
cool.
on their phone as you're singing them. So as a singer, make sure you don't mess the
Wow.
words up. But now you do have to have Wi-Fi for that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have Wi-Fi to run the program.
Right.
Naturally. But you're hitting a web server, and for it to pull down the words instantly, you'll need that. But that's called sing along, and that's included. We don't, like I said, we don't charge extra for that.
That is really, really cool. I really like that.
Oh.
Question I have for you is, okay, I could see this. Now, is this like low down where your feet would be, or where would explain exactly where it would be in regards to the stage?
Absolutely. So, really, from a audience's perspective, they just think it's they think it's a speaker wedge,
Right.
a speaker monitor. They have no idea it's a teleprompter. So, but what you're looking at, it's a 24-inch screen, and it's got a clear, like 1/8 inch thick polycarbonate shield. Now, I mentioned polycarbonate. That's the stuff you see on patio TVs, that are weatherproofed. It's shatterproof, right? And we include that. We don't charge extra for it. So earlier you mentioned about music stands and things falling on these. We've had mic stands fall on these things, and it didn't flinch, didn't even scratch it. So you have this 24-inch protective screen. Now the cabinet itself is made out of 9-ply Baltic birch plywood. So very, very heavy, durable. I say heavy. It's more durable. The box itself is only 26 pounds. It's not very heavy at all, but it's a very, very durable wood. And it's all with your black speaker paint, your Durotech speaker paint.
Okay.
And then we also include a magnetic cover to help protect that screen.
Okay.
But yeah, to answer your question, the audience, it just blends in with the floor. They have no idea you're looking at a teleprompter.
Okay. What about drummers and keyboardists?
Yeah, so they're certainly welcome to use it. Now, I've had some drummers look, the font's big enough, right? You have 11 font sizes, so a drummer can kind of look over and see the words of the singer oftentimes. Because I've heard drummers complain, "Hey, you didn't turn the page in time," or whatever, and they're actually looking at the singer's prompter. Keyboard players, not as many use it because most of them are already standing, and so they already have kind of a platform. And so typically their iPad on a stand is already going to be there. And so probably not as helpful for a keyboard player, but drummers or any guitar player or singer, absolutely.
Does it still interface with iOS and Android, or how does that all work? Or is it its own operating system?
It's its own. It's Linux. If you
Linux,
want to
okay.
geek out
All
for
right.
just a second, yeah. So the computer inside's a Raspberry Pi, right? So it's really no frills, right? You're not going to have the glitz and glamour of an iPad app, okay? But at the end of the day, you really don't need it. You need words on a screen. You need the right words to show up at the right time, and that's exactly what it does. But yeah, it's a Linux operating system on a Raspberry Pi, and it's all proprietary, built into the box itself. Now, I say proprietary, yes and no, right? The software is proprietary. However, for you, the singer, to get your songs, it's just reading text files or Word doc files or Google Doc files or PDF files. It's gonna be able to look at those lyrics or those chord charts just like you would on the computer.
Okay. Now, if you've got your own music, that you can just import them also, as far as that goes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. So we include a thumb drive, and you just copy them down to your thumb drive, and you stick the thumb drive in and auto imports. And then by the summer of 2025, we're going to have a transfer service where if you can store them on a cloud, like say a Dropbox or a Google Cloud, you'll be able to actually move them directly to the box without even having to mess with the thumb drive.
Okay, and as far as song selection, as far as that goes, if you're on the stage and you get a request for a song and you see that it's 15 songs down below, easy movement type thing, I'm guessing?
Absolutely, yeah. You have 3-foot pedals that are included, and you can quickly scroll down to whatever song you need to. Now, the catch is, as of now, you really need to have your songs preloaded, right? So if you have like 50 songs committed to memory and you vaguely know 450, you might want to have those other 450 there to retrieve on moment's notice.
Yeah. Right.
So if it's in your wheelhouse close enough, where you feel confident, you could pull it off.
Awesome. Very good. Now, before we continue, I want to say thanks so much for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast. We got a real good guest here, Tory Smith, talking about Black Box. We're going to get back to him in just a second. But I want to say, hey, thanks for tuning into the podcast. I also want to thank our good friends at Buzzsprout. They share us to all the streaming platforms. Just heard that we're now in 104 countries and 2,780 cities around the world. I want to salute a couple of those, including Port Richey, Florida, Danvers, Illinois, Clinton Township, Michigan, and get this one, Baku City in Azerbaijan. Someone You Should Know podcast heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. We're speaking to musician, manager, and gear creator Tory Smith. His invention is called the Black Box. I'm familiar with black boxes, but that's only through aviation, and that's only when you crash. This thing here will keep you from crashing, and especially with us baby boomers who love to rock out in clubs on the weekend, but might not be keen on learning new technology. You've made it kind of really user-friendly for us older guys. Can you explain on that, Tory?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So Black Box Prompter, we made it with the notion that a lot of musicians aren't super techies. They're not computer nerds, right? And so we really decided to make it as user friendly as possible. I like to say, a third grader could certainly navigate their way around it. And so we're constantly making updates to make this thing work smoother and easier. We're constantly making how-to videos and documentation because there's so many cool things that you can do with this. But at the end of the day, you need your lyrics, you need your chords, and you need to be able to see them very, very clearly. And so that's the number one goal. And we also offer with every sale of a box, we also offer a free 30-minute onboarding session, Q&A to get you up and running, ask any questions you have, because we want to make sure that you're confident using this thing before you get out on stage.
Very good. You also mentioned the fact there's a variety of font sizes. My eyesight is not that great. And, even when I have my little scripts here, when I try to stay in tune to what exactly I'm supposed to talk about next and such, I like to have a larger font. For us older guys, we can go pretty big as far as that goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. 11 font sizes. We kind of named them after t-shirt sizes. We have extra small all the way down, all the way up to 7XL, right? And it incrementally gets larger and larger. Now, all right. The downside to making it too big is there's fewer words that'll fit.
Absolutely.
On the screen.
Exactly.
So we always tell people, we always set it somewhere towards the middle. And right. We say, hey, kind of play around with it and find that sweet spot that's good for you.
Unless you're playing Louie. Then you can leave it on the big one.
Right. Yeah, hopefully you don't need a prompter for that one.
Or tequila.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you were at NAMM. Let's talk about some of the responses you've from people who you've sold it to already. Other musicians, what are they saying about it?
Absolutely. We had so many folks come from different walks of life, right? We had AV integrators. We had church folks, leading worship. We had cover band musicians, and we had original artists, coming by. We had a lady that was opening up for John Mayer that was just blown away by this. And the reception was incredible. People were just like, wow, where have you been all my life? This is fantastic. Very, very, it was validation for us that we're on to something hot, and we are 11 months old at the time of this podcast. We are just getting warmed up, and we're already, the functionality in this thing is just exponentially higher than anything else on the market. So we're very, very proud of that. We're very, very proud of the construction, and I'm very, very proud of my business partner who's worked countless hours, sometimes 20-hour days. I'm not exaggerating. Getting this thing to where it is today. It's been phenomenal. I do want to mention before I forget. I forgot to mention this earlier. There is one piece when I talk about these innovations that don't exist anywhere else. There's one piece that I'm super excited about that we're going to be launching this summer. Okay. So it just so happens we're going to be adding some AI to this thing. Well, AI, what's that?
Oh, no, dun, the evil.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Skynet's coming, folks. Skynet's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's another conversation for another day. But picture this. Imagine you're a cover band musician. You're at a gig, right? And somebody walks up and they make a request, and they request Sweet Caroline, and you haven't played Sweet Caroline in 3 years. Now, everybody knows how it goes, but you're the guitar player too. You don't really remember the chord progression. What if you'd be able to talk to the box and say, hey, Black Box, pull up Sweet Caroline in the key of G, and it instantly appears with the right chords right there from your voice.
Oh,
from
man.
your voice. Because right now it happens, they make a request. Hey, give me a second. I need to look it up. They're swinging, they're swiping, they're scrolling. Oh, that's not the right version. Oh, I need to transpose. Just a sec, you know. And I went to Nashville a few months ago to do some market research. Every single musician had an iPhone in their face, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And every single one of them took requests. This is their career. This is how they're making their living. And every time there was, there was a head scratcher, it would kill the vibe. You'd kill the momentum. You need 2 or 3 minutes to look it up. Well, with the black box prompter, you won't need all that. You'll just be able to talk to the box and it instantly appears.
That's cool. That's cool. As far as the prompter itself, is there a discount for additional ones? Say, for instance, you've got the lead singer and you've also got a lead guitarist and you've got a rhythm guitarist and you've got a bass player. Do you give group discounts for bands and such?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a couple of deals come to mind. We do have something called an Echo. So if you have a bundled special or you have the prompter that has the brains, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have an Echo, which is the monitor without the brains.
Aha.
So it's just a mirrored view with an HDMI cable. Okay. You can get a bundled deal. And when you bundle those together, then yes, you're saving a couple $100 right off the bat.
Wonderful.
Now,
wonderful.
if you want to have multiple prompters, the ones with the brains and there's some benefits to doing that as well. And you buy 2 or more boxes, I would just say call in and let's have a conversation. But while I'm on this subject, your listeners, anybody who's listening that's interested in looking at a prompter, they can use promo code Rick Anthony, and that's Rick RIK.
Yes.
Anthony all together, and then that'll knock 10% off your purchase.
I love you for that. That's great. I was going to ask you if you had some kind of discount. Look at this guy. He's already thinking ahead. Yeah, that's why he's making all the money. Great. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I know you weren't expecting that, but I was like, you know what? Let's do that. It's only fair to your listeners that are putting up with with me gabbing for this long. But as I mentioned too, if you're in the U.S., we take care of shipping for you as well in the 48 states.
Awesome, very good. How about the web address or website that we should be going to find out more information? Also, your socials too. Let's talk about it because I want to put those down in the show notes so people who are driving right now don't have to pull over and try to get a pen handy.
Absolutely, yeah, it's real easy. It's just blackboxprompter.com, blackboxprompter.com, and then we are on Facebook, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn, and it's typically whatever that social media is / Black Box Prompter all together.
Okay, those will be down in the show notes, gang. So if you're driving right now and you're in a band and going, "Oh, what a great idea! I need to get one of these. What's it called? What's it called?" Just go to the show notes, gang, and it is you'll find it there. Here's something else regarding the idea of stage presence. Is what advice would you give musicians who struggle with stage nerves and rely too heavy on stage prompts and tech?
Yeah, so we see quite a bit of that. The first rule, and I've been fortunate to manage bands for several years now, and even struggled with some of this with my own family, my own brother, because he was a natural introvert. He really struggled with that stage presence in the beginning. In the beginning, he did. And the best thing that really helped him overcome it was going through the motions and being prepared. I mean, I know it's a cliche, do your homework, but man, do your homework, So when he's walking the dog, he's listening to the song over and over, where he's just burning it into his brain.
Right. Yes.
Listening to it on the car radio, any chance, in the shower, wherever, there is something to be said for that long-term muscle memory, that locks in just by repetition. So I would say that's probably the number one thing. The other thing too is, if you are prepared, you are doing your homework, glancing to get a visual cue is totally acceptable. Even the pros, vast majority of pros filling out arenas use these teleprompters. Okay.
Yeah.
Teleprompters of some kind, not necessarily mine, but teleprompters of some kind. And there's no shame in that. Where there's shame is when you're glued to it, you're fixated on it. And then that just, takes all, it becomes a distraction and kind of just, detracts from your performance. Right.
Look at the crowd. Don't necessarily look at your prompter. And another thing is get away from the microphone a little bit sometimes. Get around. And so, what you got an individual who likes to move around on the stage, like the David Lee Roths of the era and such.
Absolutely. I would have one stage left, one stage right, one in the middle. And have the font nice and big.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
a horizontal model later in the summer too. And so with the horizontal, you'll be able to get even bigger font sizes for the ultra blind. So but yeah, I would just have as many as you need to where you can quickly glance at it at a moment's notice.
Awesome, very good. Let's back up just a little bit and talk a little bit about the cover bands that you manage. We mentioned 80s gadgets and 90 proof country. We have a feature that we love to include. It's called Tales from the Road. Those are infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. Being a manager, being a guitarist, and seeing these things, seeing your brother's band and being deeply involved in that. Any road stories that come to mind that you'd like to share with us, Tory?
Yeah. I'll share two that just came to mind. One of them is, oh my gosh, how embarrassing, and the other one is, oh my gosh, what a heartfelt moment. Okay, so
All right.
I'll start with the embarrassing one.
All right, go for it.
Embarrassing one happened a couple of years ago. My 80s band was playing at a pretty popular Irish pub on St. Paddy's Day. And I think we were covering an NXS hit. And it was, I can't remember the name of the song. I just blanked. But anyway, it came time to go into the sax solo. Okay. And I'm playing lead guitar and I'm trying to slide into that high E on the 12th fret.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. I slide into the high E on the 12th fret, but E flat came out because my helix was detuned.
Oh, really?
I accidentally hit a pedal and it detuned it half a step. And so it was completely the wrong note.
Oops.
In, crowds of hundreds of people screeching. And it was, and of course I tried to finish the solo, but I don't know what's going on. And it was, yes, I just wanted to run off the stage. It was bad.
All right.
And then a band I looked up to, we were opening up for, they were in the audience, probably like laughing at us, like that guy doesn't know what he's doing. And it's where technology just got in the way. It's not that I played the notes wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just my stupid pedal had the detuner on it. And I've talked to other lead guitarists. If you're a lead guitarist listening to this, you're probably nodding your head. Yes, that's happened to all of us. But this one was very memorable because it just stuck out. And so that was a pretty embarrassing moment. The other story I was going to tell you was, this happened a couple of years ago, also the 80s band. We were playing at a bar we play at, fairly frequently. And, during break, my sound guy comes running up to me. He says, Tory, check your Venmo account. Somebody said they just tipped you $1,000. And I said, Andy, don't quit your day job. That's not funny. He goes, no, I'm serious. Somebody tipped you $1,000. I go, really? I go, here, let me just pull it up. And I pull up and sure enough, somebody had tipped us $1,000. I'm like, this has to be a joke. Where, it's this lady over here. Let me walk you to her table. Well, she had gone outside. So I talked to her friends. I said, so your friend just tipped us $1,000. What in God's name for? And she said, her husband passed away about a month ago and she's been very, very down and depressed. And this is her first time she's been out and done anything social, with her girlfriends. And she says she was having such a great time. She was grinning ear to ear. She said, I want to do something special for the band. And she's like, I can do this. And she did it. And it was just such a, the money was nice. Don't get me wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
but the backstory of, that she felt so compelled and motivated to do that for us. It brought tears to my eyes. I was blown away.
That is something that doesn't show up on your spreadsheets. It shows up in your heart and it shows up in your mind and your soul. It's something that, when I was on the radio, I got a paycheck. Yeah, I enjoyed doing what I did every single day. But those individuals who connected with me and said, something, that song right there really spoke to me. It really spoke to me. I was having a crappy day, but thanks to you, I think I can make it through the rest of the day. Those moments always stood out in my 44 years of being on the radio, and I really and truly loved it when I would interact. I've had those ones, you play that same damn song over and over again. You should play this song, blah, blah, blah. I got a lot of those too. But the ones that really and truly got to me are the ones that I can make a difference in their day. And you're doing the same thing too, Tory. I like it. And I really like the idea that you've got this black box prompter. Once again, blackboxprompter.com. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Very good. And once again, gang, listen up here. Here's a chance to save 10%. You use the promo code Rick Anthony. That's RIKANTHONY, all one word. and you'll save 10% thanks to our friend Tory right there. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate you doing that for my listeners.
Absolutely.
All right,
yeah,
and
sure.
And you do ship since we are international as far as it goes. You do ship international.
Right now we're shipping Mexico, Canada, and the UK.
All right, so very good. So anyone who is in a band or someone who would like to have something for their home setup, for that matter, all right, get in touch with my friend Tory Smith right here. Blackboxprompter.com is where you need to go. Plus, the socials are down there in the show notes. And Tory, it's been a real treat to have you on the show, man. I hope you sell 1 billion of these units.
Oh, man, thank you so much, man. My pleasure.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.